Saturday night, Broad Street. You walk down the ramp toward the RumRunner's entrance, heels echoing against concrete, breath visible in cold air. The doorman checks for jacket and tie. No trainers, no jeans. Dress properly, or turn around. Music thumps from inside, bass you feel in your chest before you hear the melody. Roxy music, David Bowie, something that sounds like the future. This is Birmingham, 1983. This is where everything happens. The RumRunner sat on Broad Street from 1964 until demolition in 1987, but the 80s made it legendary. Brothers Paul and Michael Barrow remodeled it after visiting Studio 54 in New York, bringing that glitter and glamour to grey industrial Birmingham. Progressive DJs played jazz funk alongside Bowie, creating something Birmingham had never seen. Inside, an island bar dominated the centre, 360 degrees of access, efficient and showy at once. Booths lined the walls. A low stage sat left of the dance floor. Everyone who mattered came through, Black Sabbath dropping in after gigs, Roy Wood, UB40, Dexys Midnight Runners. But one band defined the place. Duran Duran walked in with a demo tape in 1978, got offered rehearsal space and jobs. Nick Rhodes DJ Ed. John Taylor worked the door. Roger Taylor collected glasses. Andy Taylor cooked in the kitchen. By 1984, they were playing Madison Square Garden to 20,000 fans. 4 years from washing glasses to New York. The club demolished in 1987 for a Hyatt hotel. Blue Plaque appeared in 2022. But if you were there between 1978 and 1987, you know, grey Birmingham, rainy Saturday night, the RumRunner was the centre of everything that mattered. Did you ever make it into the RumRunner? What year? Tell us in the comments. If you're nodding along to these Birmingham memories, subscribe now. We're documenting the real 1980s before it's forgotten. Hit that button. 1 o'clock. Lunchtime. Your mum watched Pebble Mill at 1. The BBC filmed it in the foyer of their Birmingham studios on Pebble Mill Road. Glass wall visible behind presenters. People sometimes walking past outside. Donnie MacLeod, Marion Foster, Bob Langley. Faces you knew better than relatives you saw once a year. They interviewed pop stars, demonstrated cooking, talked about gardening with Peter Seabrook. Off school sick meant watching it. Home for lunch from primary school meant catching the end. Summer holidays meant it filled the dead zone between morning and afternoon. When they cancelled it in 1986, 30,000 people wrote to complain. Nobody listened. Did your mum watch Pebble Mill at 1? Were you off school sick watching it? Drop your memories below. The Bull Ring was dying. Built in the 60s as Britain's first indoor shopping centre. By the 80s, it looked like something nobody wanted anymore. Brutalist architecture aged badly, grey concrete that stained darker in the rain, boxy design that felt oppressive rather than modern. The pedestrian subways stayed dark even midday, fluorescent tubes humming overhead, tiles cracked and stained. High street stores moved out, empty units multiplied. Rental prices stayed too high for small businesses, so shoppers walked past vacant shop fronts with "To Let" signs gathering dust behind dirty glass. The market still operated, but foot traffic thinned. You went because you had to, not because you wanted to. Woolworths anchored one section, C&A another, but the thrill had gone. The subways smelled of damp concrete and urine. Teenagers congregated in shadowy corners, smoking, dealing, making the place feel unsafe even in daylight. Mothers gripped children tighter walking through. Merry Hill opened in Dudley in the late 80s. Modern, bright, free parking, everything the Bull Ring wasn't. Retail drained away from the city centre toward that edge-of-town convenience. Birmingham's shopping heart started failing, concrete arteries clogging with neglect. Plans circulated for redevelopment. Nothing happened fast. The Bull Ring stumbled through the 90s, a 60s vision collapsing slowly under its own weight, under changing tastes, under the reality that modern sometimes ages worst of all. Walking through it in 1985 felt like watching something die. The new Bull Ring wouldn't open until 2003. 18 more years of concrete decay, empty shops, and the knowledge that Birmingham's centre was broken. Do you remember when the Bull Ring started looking really rough? What year did you stop going there? March 1981. Planet Earth hit Radio 1. Birmingham lads from the RumRunner, suddenly everywhere. Your sister had the poster. Your mate's older brother saw them at Barbarella's before they were famous. Everyone claimed some connection. I knew someone who worked with John Taylor's cousin. My aunt served Nick Rhodes in Rackham's. My dad delivered beer to the RumRunner. The videos played constantly on the brand new MTV that some kids' parents had through early cable or satellite. Yachts in Sri Lanka, exotic locations, makeup and hairspray and fashion that looked nothing like Birmingham but came from Birmingham anyway. Girls on film. Hungry like the wolf? Rio. By 1984, they sold out Madison Square Garden. 20,000 Americans screaming for 5 blokes from Brummie who'd been washing glasses and collecting tickets 3 years earlier. Simon Le Bon's dad taught at our school. Someone's cousin swore. Endless degrees of separation. The city produced them. The RumRunner shaped them. Studio 54 influenced them. But Birmingham claimed them completely. Our band. Our success story. Evidence that you could escape the grey and the rain and the dying city centre and become something global. They just had to leave Birmingham first. September 1985. Handsworth. Tensions that had simmered since the 1981 riots exploded again. Reports said it started with an arrest near the Acapulco Cafe in Los Ells, a police raid on Villa Cross pub. Hundreds attacked police and property. Looting. Fires. 2 people died. The footage played on national news for days. Birmingham burning. Police in riot gear. Buildings gutted. Cars overturned. The city's name attached to violence and decay rather than Duran Duran's yachts or new romantic glamour. John Akomfrah made Handsworth Songs, an award-winning documentary that captured more than news footage could. The context, the unemployment, the frustration, the systemic problems that riots expressed but never solved. Where were you when Handsworth kicked off in 1985? Did it change how you saw Birmingham? These Birmingham stories matter. Subscribe and share. Your comments keep these memories alive. More 1980s Birmingham coming. Your school got computers in 1983. BBC micros, beige plastic cases, green text on black screens that flickered if you looked too long. They arrived in the computer room, a converted storage space with 6 machines on desks facing walls, cables snaking to a printer that screamed and produced dot matrix text on perforated paper. 1 lesson a week if your timetable allowed. 30 kids, 6 computers. You worked in pairs, waiting turns, learning basic programming from worksheets photocopied so many times the text blurred grey. 10 print hello, 20 go to. 10. Your name scrolled up the screen infinitely. Brilliant. Logo programming meant controlling a turtle that drew lines based on commands you typed. Forward 50, right 90, forward 50. Making squares and triangles felt like commanding the future. Some kids grasped it immediately, typing faster, creating complex patterns. Others stared at screens, lost, wondering what this had to do with anything useful. Granny's Garden, that educational game everyone played. Exploring a garden, solving puzzles, witch appearing suddenly with a screech that made you jump. Kids gathered around whoever was playing, crowding the screen, suggesting moves, arguing about strategies. The Spectrum ZX and Commodore 64 existed too. Classmates who had them at home talked about games, loading times that stretched 20 minutes from cassette tapes, the superior graphics that BBC micros couldn't match. But schools bought BBC micros because the BBC Computer Literacy Project pushed them, part of the government's plan to prevent Britain falling behind in technology. You learned nothing that seemed immediately practical. But sitting in that converted storage room, green text on black screens, you touched something that mattered, even if you couldn't articulate why. The future, arriving slowly to a Birmingham comprehensive. What was your first computer at school? BBC Micro? Spectrum? Did you understand what you were doing? You clocked in at 9 Saturday morning. Woolworths, market stall, washing dishes at a cafe on New Street, wherever would hire a 15-year-old and pay cash. 8 hours for 12 quid if you were lucky, 10 if the boss was tight. Woolworths meant standing behind counters, restocking shelves, working the till under supervision until they trusted you with money. The pick and mix counter needed constant refilling. Kids' grubby hands digging through sherbet and cola bottles, leaving sticky residue you wiped hourly. Staff breaks lasted 15 minutes. You ate sandwiches in the stockroom, then back to the floor. Market stalls paid better, but meant weather. Rain soaked through your coat. Cold froze your fingers counting change. You shouted prices like the adults, learning the rhythm, 3 for £1, lovely jubbly, best tomatoes in Birmingham. Regulars recognised you, cracked jokes, made the hours pass. The money went on clothes, records from our price, nights out if you saved. Independents purchased at 12 quid per Saturday, 8 hours standing, back aching, learning that work meant trading time for money, and most jobs were boring. You did it anyway because staying home was worse. What was your first Saturday job? How much did you earn? Tell us, we want to hear it. Friday night meant walking to the video shop. Not Blockbuster yet, they came later. But local places, independent shops with names like Video Vision or City Video. Shelves crammed with VHS cases, promising entertainment your 3 channels couldn't provide. The new releases occupied prime position, front of the store, constantly rented. Everything else packed shelves alphabetically, plastic cases worn from handling, cover art lurid and exaggerated. You browsed for 20 minutes, reading backs, checking certificates, making decisions that mattered because you only rented 1, maybe 2, if it was a special weekend. Membership cards lived in wallets. Late fees accumulated if you forgot to return by Monday. The shop clerk knew your family by name, knew your viewing habits, suggested films based on what you'd rented before. You liked Ghostbusters? Try this. VHS rewinders sat on counters. Separate machines that spared your VCR, rewinding tapes at high speed while your player rested. Be kind, rewind, return it ready for the next renter. Sometimes you'd fast forward to check if the previous renter had rewound properly. They usually hadn't. A whole ecosystem around watching films at home. Gone within 20 years. Central Television occupied studios on Broad Street, where Arena Central sits now. Purpose-built colour studios opened in 1968, operating through the 80s, producing regional programming that appeared between national shows. You knew it was there, passed it on buses, saw the Central logo, recognised the building from trailers. Crossroads filmed there. The soap your gran watched religiously, set in a Midlands motel, running from 1964 to 1988, with production based in Birmingham. Occasionally you'd see filming happening, cameras outside, vans parked, people standing around looking official. You never stopped, just noted it. Television happened here, in Birmingham, not London. The studios closed in 1997, demolished for offices. Did you ever see filming happening on Broad Street? What show? Drop it in the comments. Everything was changing. Broad Street was changing. The RumRunner demolished, new developments planned, the area transforming from rundown industrial fringe to Birmingham's entertainment quarter. Convention Centre opened in 1991. Symphony Hall followed in 1991. The vision took shape slowly, replacing what you knew with something else. The bull ring stayed broken. Handsworth stayed tense. Manufacturing jobs disappeared. Unemployment statistics climbed. But something shifted underneath. The city acknowledging it couldn't stay the same, that the 60s optimism had curdled, that Birmingham needed reinventing even if nobody agreed how. Your BBC micro-programming lessons seemed pointless then, but computers mattered increasingly. Saturday jobs paid for independence, but also taught you early that work was mostly standing around for money. Video shops exploded, then vanished. Duran Duran proved Birmingham could produce world-class success, while the city centre decayed around the music. The 80s didn't fix Birmingham, but they started conversations about what came next. New developments, new directions, new possibilities emerging from grey rain and concrete decay. Stand on Broad Street now. Arena Birmingham. Bars, restaurants, Hyatt Hotel where the RumRunner stood. Different, not better or worse. Just proof that nothing stays. What do you miss most about 1980s Birmingham? What are you glad changed? That was Birmingham in the 1980s. Subscribe for more memories from the decade that changed everything. Thanks for watching.